Hey guys, tonight I invite you to a world you've never truly known. A world not lit by lamplight or nostalgia, but by the flickering flame of coal fires and the clanging of iron gears. It's the beginning of your first day as a factory worker in the heart of Victorian England. Not a simulation, not a dramatization, just the cold, unpainted truth. Before the day begins, take a breath, dim your lights, and ready yourself, not for comfort, but for endurance. The day does not begin with sunlight. It begins with a bell, a sound that does not welcome or beckon, but commands. It shatters the dark like iron striking iron, violent in its urgency. You stir on a mattress barely deserving the name, more a flattened heap of straw than a place for rest. Its stiffness is not from age, but from the countless nights it has absorbed. Every one of them soaked with the sweat and sorrow of someone who had no choice but to sleep there. You sit up, but your body protests. The joints groan. The muscles are already sore. Not from work yet, but from the living conditions that surround it. You can see your breath in the still air, tiny clouds of mist that vanish as soon as they form. There is no fire. There is no warmth. There is no time. Your meal, if one dares to call it that, is a scrap of yesterday's bread, stale enough to blunt a knife, dry enough to absorb the last moisture from your mouth. No butter, no milk, no tea. These are luxuries of another world, a world you do not belong to. Here, breakfast is not for pleasure. It is merely a function, enough to stop the hunger from becoming debilitating. The clothing you pull on is stiff with grime. The fabric, coarse and unforgiving, feels more like punishment than protection. It clings in the wrong places and leaves you exposed where you most wish for warmth. There's no wardrobe, no options, no mirror to check how you look. Appearance is not relevant in a place where survival is the only expectation. Stepping out into the narrow street, you are met not by sunlight, but by fog thick enough to grasp. The city has not woken, or rather, it has never slept. The haze is not natural mist, but a mixture of soot, ash, and industrial breath, spewed from chimneys like curses into the air. It coats the lungs, the clothes, and eventually the mind. You hear it before you see it, the second ringing of the factory bell. It comes like a warning shot, like the drawing of a blade before a duel. You begin to walk faster, compelled not by duty, but by fear. The factory doesn't forgive lateness, and neither does the man who runs it, a man you've not yet met, but whose shadow already stretches across your morning. The path ahead is a gauntlet. The street is slick, not with rain, but with an unnameable mixture of waste, refuse, and filth. Every step is a test. Your shoes, thin-soled and soft from wear, offer no defense. Cold seeps in like a living thing. A nearby child, no older than 8, rushes past with an urgency far too old for his face. His destination is the same as yours. So is his fate. Around you, life seems suspended. Buildings lean too close together, their windows clouded, their bricks damp from years of breath and mold. Laundry droops from lines above the street like surrendered flags. The people you pass do not greet you. Their eyes are dull, their pace automatic. No one here is awake in the true sense. They simply move because they must. The further you walk, the thicker the fog. But it's not fog at all. It's the exhalation of machines. Chimneys cough black smoke into the sky, turning morning into permanent twilight. You look up and see no sun. You look down and see the river. Or what used to be a river. It now flows like a sick thing, thick with waste and oil, bubbling unnaturally, as if trying to breathe through its own poison. Your hands are already shaking and you haven't lifted a single tool. Your lungs sting. Your eyes water. The smell is a strange alchemy. Coal, sweat, metal, and a hint of something that might be rot. The scent of survival, perhaps, or decay. Either way, it becomes part of you, You finally reach the gates of the factory. They rise before you like the mouth of some great iron beast, wide, black, and uninviting. The walls are high, the windows are barred. The sound from inside is overwhelming, a low, grinding growl made of gears, steam, and sorrow. It is not a place of work. It is a place of consumption. You do not enter it. It absorbs you. And this is only the morning. The factory does not welcome you. It does not greet. It does not acknowledge. It consumes. The doors, massive iron slabs streaked with soot and oil, resist your touch. They creak open with the sound of strain, like the place itself is groaning at the idea of hosting another body inside. You step in, and at once, the world changes. The air thickens, the light vanishes. The noise becomes a living force. It is not quiet in the factory. It is never quiet. Sound does not echo here. It thrashes, crashes, rolls across the ceiling beams and back down through the floor. Machines roar and hiss in a metallic chorus that drowns all thought. Iron arms clatter against stone bases. Belts spin with a fury that suggests they are trying to escape their own mechanisms. Steam bursts from valves with sudden, violent sighs, as though even the machines are tired. You cannot speak. You cannot hear your own breath. You cannot even think clearly. This is not simply labor. It is a form of submission. Your first view is of shadows moving through the smoke. Workers, already in motion, already in rhythm. Their bodies stooped, their hands stained, their faces unreadable beneath the grime and the dust. There is no conversation, only the dance of survival. Step here, reach there, dodge the gear, feed the loom. Don't stop. Don't speak. Don't slip. The floor beneath you is slick. Not from water, but from a mixture of oil, soot, metal shavings, and long-forgotten spills. You learn quickly that walking here is not a matter of placing your feet, but predicting the surface. Every step is a negotiation, every misstep a possible injury. There are no handrails, no warning signs, just instinct. Then you see him. The foreman. He does not need to raise his voice. His presence alone is loud. He is carved from scorn, dressed in dust-colored clothes that seem to carry the stench of the factory more than anyone else. He does not blink. He does not smile. He only watches, and when he walks past, every worker moves faster. You do too, because somehow, without speaking a word, he makes you believe that your very existence is an inconvenience to him. He points toward a machine. You look at it. It looks back. Not with eyes, but with the shape of threat. It is enormous. Larger than anything you imagined. A web of gears and belts and pistons. No labels. No levers marked safe. No instructions. Just motion. Relentless, mechanical motion. That one, he says. You run it. No guidance. No demonstration. Just those 3 words. You approach like a man nearing a wild animal. The machine is all movement, all heat, all growl. Leather belts blur above your head, spinning with such speed they seem invisible. Pipes drip steam and spit droplets of boiling water like venom from a predator. A man beside you leans in. His sleeve is rolled. His hand, or what remains of it, is a lesson you weren't ready to learn. He says, "Keep your arms close." It bites. Then he turns away. That's your training. You do not know what you are doing. You feed a sheet of material into the spinning mouth of the machine, hands trembling. The gears take it. The machine shudders. You step back, not from wisdom, but from fear. The foreman sees you hesitate. His scowl sharpens like a blade. "Faster," he barks. You do not argue. You don't even nod. You just try again. And then, for one dreadful second, your sleeve brushes too near a belt. A sound, a snap, so subtle, so fast, it almost doesn't register. But it's enough. You yank your arm back, heart pounding. The fabric is torn. Your skin is saved. This time. Across the floor, another machine screeches. Not from malfunction, just from age. It's always on the verge of failure, but failure here doesn't mean stopping. It means injury, and no one stops for injury. You've already seen it. A boy no older than 12 stumbles. His foot slips on the oily floor. He catches himself. No one looks. No one gasps. No one helps. Everyone has learned the rule. Do not pause. Not for blood. Not for pain. Not even for yourself. The smell is unbearable. A choking mix of metal dust, scorched oil, and something more human. Sweat, yes, but also the dry sting of despair. It's in the air. It's in your lungs. It settles in your throat like a second tongue. You want to speak, to ask how long, to ask when the shift ends. But you realize there is no clock, no measure of time that makes sense in here. There's only noise and movement. The machine tells time now, and it will not stop until the bell rings again. If it rings again, you've been in the factory less than an hour, and already your body is negotiating its own surrender. The noise assaults every part of you, and it's not a hum or a drone, it's a barrage. Iron slamming into iron, belts whipping through pulleys, steam shrieking from pressure valves. You feel it in your ribs, in your skull, behind your eyes. Thought itself becomes a kind of static. There are no quiet moments. There is only loud, louder, and unbearable. You try, at first, to preserve your hearing, covering your ears between cycles, shifting your head away from the nearest roar. But it's futile. The sound lives inside you now. It crawls down your spine, pulses behind your eyes. You open your mouth to yawn, just for the release, and even that is devoured by the roar. If a man screamed beside you, you wouldn't know unless he grabbed you by the collar and shook your very bones. You glance at the others. Their faces don't show pain. They don't show anything. Blank expressions, glazed eyes, silent mouths pressed into grim lines. They've adapted, or rather, they've given up trying to resist. And perhaps in time you will too. But it's not just the sound that tries to break you. The air itself is a battleground. Breathing, something you once did without thought, becomes a conscious effort. The factory air is not air. It is a cloud of soot, cotton dust, oil mist, and something more primitive. The breath of exhaustion. You inhale and your throat tightens. You exhale and feel nothing leave. You are not breathing. You are surviving oxygen in its cruelest form. The haze hangs between the rafters and the floor, stirred with every movement. It sparkles faintly in the shafts of light that pierce the dirty windows. You know those particles. They are sharp. They will settle in your lungs and stay. You are not just inhaling air. You are collecting disease with every breath. Nearby, a man coughs. Not a light cough, a wrenching, full-body convulsion. He turns away, spits into a rag, then returns to his machine. You see no surprise on the faces around him. No fear, just resignation. These are not symptoms. They are part of the job. No one covers their mouth. There is no time, no hands free, and no use. Everyone is breathing the same poison. Everyone is on the same slow path to collapse. The heat, too, becomes its own torment. Steam powers everything here. It hisses from pipes, fuels engines, drips from valves, and with it comes heat that has nowhere to go. There is no ventilation, no breeze. The windows are sealed. Not out of safety, but to keep the outside world out. Fresh air is a dream from a life you never lived. Your clothes, already heavy, are soaked within the hour. Sweat clings to soot. Your skin itches and burns, but there is nothing you can do. The grime becomes a second skin. A black paste forms in the creases of your elbows and neck. A mixture of oil, dirt, and your own body breaking down. And still, the machines demand your attention. You try to keep your sleeve from catching. You keep your fingers tight, your arms close, your eyes sharp. Because here, a moment's distraction is not a mistake. It's a mutilation. To your left, a man is missing half his hand. To your right, another wears a leather strap across his jaw, the scar beneath it, likely from a belt that snapped and caught him in the face. No one talks about it. You don't ask. You just understand. The factory does not forgive hesitation. Your pulse races. Your body trembles. Your instincts scream, but there is no escape. The machines do not pause for fear. The work does not slow for pain. You're not a person here. You are a part, a cog, another moving piece of the system, and you know. This is still early in the day. You still have hours to go. Hours of this noise, this heat, this stench, this constant calculation of survival. You're already tired, not the kind of tired that sleep solves. A deeper weariness, the exhaustion of having to convince your body to stay whole while everything around you conspires to tear it apart. You ask yourself the first real question of the day. Not how much longer, but rather, how much more can I take? And you suspect, though you dare not say it aloud, the factory will answer that question for you. Time bends inside the factory. It no longer flows. It lingers, stretches, mocks. Minutes become hours. Hours become eternities. The clocks are irrelevant if they even exist. Only the machines mark time now, not in seconds, but in cycles of noise, pressure, and pain. It is afternoon, though you wouldn't know it. The light outside, if any remains, cannot reach you. The windows, few and far between, are smeared with grime so thick that even the sun cannot penetrate. The only illumination is the flickering gas lamps mounted high on the walls, and they cast more shadow than light. You begin to see things in the haze, shapes, figures, movements that vanish when you blink. You don't know if they're real. By now, your body is no longer yours. It has become an object of labor. Your hands move automatically, trembling from repetition, from fear, from cold that still clings to your bones even in the sweltering air. Your back has curled into a permanent bend. Your shoulders ache from carrying not weight, but hours. Your legs, once solid, now shake beneath you like wood left too long in the rain. And worst of all, your fingers are going numb. Not from injury, not yet, but from sheer overuse. They no longer respond like they used to. You fumble, you drop tools. Your grip weakens, every small slip invites catastrophe. You know this, and yet there is nothing you can do. You cannot stop. You cannot ask for help. You cannot even show hesitation. The foreman is always watching, and if not him, someone else will report you. Around you, the others are silent, but their bodies speak loudly. One worker, a boy no older than 15, sways as he works, his eyes half closed. He's not lazy, he's not weak, he's simply spent. You understand him because you feel the same. You're no longer thinking clearly. You're drifting. Your mind, desperate to escape, begins to wander. You imagine a quiet place. Grass under your back, sky above your face, wind brushing your skin. But then the machine jolts, and your hand slips, and you're yanked back into the present. A sharp corner grazes your wrist, not deep, not serious, but enough. Enough to remind you, dreams are dangerous here. To fall into one is to fall into the machine. You clutch your hand to your chest, hiding the blood. No one offers help. Not because they don't care, but because they've learned the truth. Attention is risk. If the foreman sees injury, he might remove you from the line, but not to rest, to replace you permanently. There is always someone waiting, someone hungrier, someone more desperate. This is the slump, the time of day when spirits falter and the body begins to whisper in betrayal. It tells you to sit, to lie down, to surrender. But you do not listen. You cannot. The air is thicker now. Steam and dust swirl in a cruel ballet. Your lungs ache, each breath a negotiation. You cough, once, twice, and wipe your mouth, hoping nothing red comes up. You've heard stories of men who coughed until they collapsed. No one carried them out. They were dragged. Quietly, quickly. You try to steady your heartbeat. You try to hold your ground. But everything about the afternoon conspires against you. Even time itself seems reluctant to move forward. You look to the clock, if you can see one, and realize with a horror that only 15 minutes have passed. You could have sworn it was an hour. Then someone screams. Not a loud scream, not a dramatic one, just a sharp, surprised cry. The sound of skin meeting steel. A man nearby has cut his hand open. Blood spills. He clutches it, wraps it in cloth, and turns back to his work. No break, no first aid, no acknowledgement. You stare, stunned, until he catches your eye and shrugs. As if to say, "It happens," as if to say, "What else did you expect?" You look down at your own hands. Still whole. For now. But how long until the machine decides it wants something from you? This is not work. This is erosion. Of the body, of the mind, of the soul. And it is far from over. There is a moment. It comes to everyone. When you finally understand what kind of place this really is. Not when the machines scream, not when the air turns solid with dust, but when someone gets hurt and the world doesn't stop. It happens so quickly you almost miss it. A man, just down the row, makes a sudden motion, then recoils. You see his mouth open in a silent curse, his arm bent awkwardly. Something has gone wrong. Something in the machine, something in the man. He steps back, his hand already bleeding. The fingers, not all of them are there. You wait for the foreman to shout. You wait for someone to run to him. You wait for the line to stop. Nothing happens. The man wraps his hand with cloth. Maybe it's clean. Maybe it isn't. He tightens the knot with his teeth. Blood seeps through, dark and fast. He doesn't sit down. He doesn't leave. He returns to his machine. One hand lighter. One finger gone. You feel sick. No one speaks. No one points. This is not a tragedy here. This is Tuesday. The machines do not care. The belts keep spinning. The steam keeps hissing. The work continues. And that's when you understand. Here, injury is not interruption, it's routine. Accidents are not rare. They're constant, expected, built into the day like the sound of iron or the taste of soot. A woman nearby gasps. Her hair has caught in a pulley. Just a strand, but it's enough. The machine yanks her forward. A second later, she's pulled back by her co-workers, and someone cuts her hair free with a rusted knife. Her scalp is bleeding. Her hands shake. She's handed a cap to cover the wound, not out of kindness, but to hide the evidence. She returns to work. The foreman barks something. Not about her safety, but about lost time, and then he moves on as though nothing happened. The horror isn't the injury, it's the silence that follows it. No shock, no sympathy, just normal. You grip your machine tighter, your hands are sweating, your sleeves feel too loose, every inch of your body feels suddenly vulnerable. Soft, human, breakable. In a place built entirely out of steel and indifference. Burns are frequent. Pipes hiss and spit when you least expect it. Sometimes without warning. Steam finds skin and leaves marks like brands. No one is immune. You've seen faces pockmarked with old wounds, necks scarred from splashes, fingers blistered raw, and when someone does go down, truly down, the line stops. Not for rescue, but for removal. You saw it once already. A man fell. You didn't see what caused it, only the aftermath. His body collapsed beside the gears. The others kept working until the noise from his machine changed. That's when they pulled him back. Quickly, quietly. The factory paused for 5 minutes, not out of concern, but for cleanup. Then everything resumed. The injured man did not return. You didn't ask where he went. You're not sure you want to know. In the rare moment when machines do halt, it is not a blessing. It is a warning. It means something worse has happened. A jam, a break, or a person whose pain can no longer be ignored. But even then, no one panics. They stretch their backs. They sip water. They wipe sweat from their faces and pick bits of bread from their pockets. Because even when someone loses a limb, the pause is temporary. The machine will be fixed. The work will resume. And another body will take the place of the one that fell. You begin to realize, survival here isn't about strength. It isn't about skill. It's about luck, and how long you can keep it. You glance at your fingers. Still intact, for now. But this place is hungry. It doesn't feast all at once. It takes slowly. A finger here, a hearing there, a piece of your breath, a fragment of your sleep. A little more every day, and no one says a word. When the lunch bell rings, if it can even be called that, it's not a sound of relief. It's not a pause. It's a grim chime that signals a shift in suffering. You are still expected to work. You're just now allowed to chew. There is no cafeteria, no benches, no warm meals passed in trays. There is only the space beside your machine, the place you've stood since morning, where you now eat because there's nowhere else to go. You reach into your pocket, fingers brushing past threads and lint, and pull out what little you manage to bring. A crust of bread, a half-crushed potato, a slice of hard cheese that smells stronger than your will to live. That's your lunch. That, and whatever you can keep from dropping onto the oil-slicked floor. Some workers don't even stop moving. They eat between motions. Lift, chew, crank, swallow. Others crouch low beside the gears, backs to the wall, gnawing in silence. The machines do not stop. The noise remains deafening. If you try to speak, your voice disappears before it reaches your own ears. You take a bite. The bread cracks like stone. Your teeth protest, but you keep going. It's not about taste. It's about survival. The food isn't warm. It isn't clean. It isn't filling. It simply exists. And that is enough. Or at least it has to be. You watch a man drop his meal. A chunk of bread hits the floor and slides under the machine. He hesitates. He looks around. He reaches for it, brushes the dirt away, and eats it anyway. Not because he doesn't care, but because food is food and there's no time for pride in this place. Children eat beside you, some barely tall enough to see over the machinery. They chew with the same tired rhythm, eyes unfocused, hands still stained from the morning's labor. One boy drops his only potato. It rolls, lost. He doesn't cry. He just stares forward, silent, and waits for the bell to ring again. The dust never stops swirling. It finds its way into your food, into your mouth, onto your tongue. Every bite carries the crunch of metal and filth. And yet you eat it. You eat it because there is no other option. 8 minutes. That's what they give you. 8 minutes to rest, recover, and return to labor. But what rest can be found with machines pounding around you? What recovery is possible in this poisoned air? The supervisor paces between rows, eyes cold, voice louder than steel. He doesn't stop to eat. He doesn't ask if you've had enough. He watches, times you, judges your posture, your breath, your every movement. If you chew too long, he notices. If you lean too far, he corrects you. With words or worse. And then, before your body can register even the faintest change, the bell rings again. Lunch is over. You've barely eaten. Your stomach is not full. Your throat is dry. Your jaw aches from chewing bread meant for a different century. And yet you rise. You wipe your hands. You return to your machine, because there is no choice. You will work now for another 10 hours. Or more, if they demand it. There are no second breaks, no snacks, No water stations. What you had in your pocket was all there was. This isn't lunch. This is endurance measured in calories and cruelty. By the time afternoon truly sets in, you've lost all sense of the outside world. The idea that there is weather beyond these walls, that light changes, that clouds pass, feels distant and imaginary. The factory has swallowed you whole. You exist only within its metal belly. Your body is no longer tired. It is something beyond that, hollowed out, functioning only because it hasn't yet collapsed. You've moved past hunger, past thirst, past ache. Now there is only instinct. 1 foot forward, 1 arm lifting, 1 repetition after another. And the machines, they do not care. They churn with the same fury as they did this morning. If anything, they seem louder, angrier. Their rhythm punishes hesitation, their power dares weakness. And in your current state, weakness is all you have left. Your arms burn from the constant motion, lifting, feeding, pressing, repeating. Your back pulses with a dull, rhythmic pain. It feels like your spine is trying to curl in on itself, like it wants to retreat somewhere quieter. Your legs, numb in parts, trembling in others, carry you, but only because they haven't been given permission to fail. Your hands are filthy, your clothes soaked. The air has grown thicker. Breathing is a task that demands effort. Each inhale drags soot through your lungs. Each exhale tastes of iron. You've learned to pace yourself. Shallow breaths, quick ones. Enough to keep from falling, but not enough to make you feel alive. The noise, the constant pounding roar, has begun to carve tunnels in your mind. It digs deep, echoes back, reshapes your thoughts. You've stopped hearing the specific sounds. Now it's just one massive pressure, pressing against your ears like a storm you cannot escape. You blink more slowly now. You lose seconds at a time. You stare too long at a gear. You forget what step comes next. Then the foreman's voice cuts through the haze and jolts you back, sharp as a blade, cruel as always. Move. You're slowing. He's right. You are. But what he doesn't see, what he never will see, is that your slowing isn't a choice. It's a signal, a final warning. The last reserves of your strength are flickering like a candle in the wind. And yet you do not stop, because no one does. You look around and see others just like you, barely upright, swaying, pale. Some don't speak all day. Others mutter to themselves, lips moving silently as if in prayer. One man, face gaunt, eyes sunken, stares into the distance like he's trying to remember who he used to be. There's no relief. No joke to break the silence. No comfort in companionship. Everyone is too far inside themselves, too deep in their own unraveling to offer anything to anyone else. Your thoughts become strange. You begin to see the machine not as a tool, but as a presence. Something alive, something watching. You feel it breathing with you. You feel it anticipating your hesitation. You imagine it hungry, not for material, but for you. A flick of the wrist in the wrong direction, and it will take a piece of you as payment. Your sense of time shatters. You check the nearest wall for a clock. There isn't one. You glance at a window, but it shows nothing but soot-streaked glass. You ask yourself how many hours are left, and realize you no longer know how many have passed. Your thoughts drift. You imagine yourself sitting in silence, not in a chair, just sitting anywhere. You picture grass, a river, a quiet room with no walls, no noise, a moment of stillness, but then a belt snaps nearby and the sound yanks you back. Daydreaming is dangerous here. You touch your face, it's wet. You don't know if it's sweat or something else. You check your fingers, still all there. You check your heartbeat, still pounding, fast, unsteady, but still there. You ask yourself, how long can a person do this? And the truth is, longer than they should, because in this place, collapse is not the end. It is the beginning of replacement. You are still here, still standing, still feeding the machine. But you know, deep down, that part of you has already left. And then, as if by some cosmic accident, the final bell rings. It cuts through the roar, not like a song, but like a blade. A cold, metallic toll that means one thing and one thing only. The shift is over. At least, you hope it is. Your body doesn't believe it at first. You hesitate. You don't trust the silence that follows, because silence does not belong here. But slowly, the machines wind down. The gears spin slower. The belts soften their growl. The last burst of steam hisses out like a dying breath. It's over. For now. You step back from your station. Your hands are stiff, your knuckles scraped. Your legs feel as if they are no longer connected to the rest of you. Every part of your body screams. Not in pain, that came hours ago. This is something different. This is the sound of your muscles unraveling. Around you, workers move not with triumph, but with detachment. No one cheers. No one speaks. They shuffle, limp, lean against the walls for balance. You all look like the ghosts of yourselves. Pale, covered in soot, expressions drained. You make for the exit. The factory's iron gates seem further away than they were this morning, like the building has grown around you. Your boots, soaked in whatever the floor has collected all day, squish with every step. They're heavier now, not with mud, but with what you've endured. Outside, it's dark. Not just evening, Victorian dark. A blackness filled with fog and coal smoke, the kind of dark that eats the stars. The air is thicker out here than it was this morning. Not better, just different. Still filled with soot, just more open about it. You take a breath, it burns. The fog clings to your lungs, thick with the smoke of 10,000 chimneys. Somewhere, a cart rattles over broken stones. Somewhere, someone coughs, hard, deep and unending. Somewhere, a child cries, not loudly, just enough to remind you that even suffering has echoes. The walk home begins. You do not walk with purpose. You walk because there is nothing else to do. The cobbled road beneath your feet is slick, uneven, waiting to trip you. The buildings you pass lean too closely together, their windows yellow with weak candlelight. Behind those windows are families like yours. Rooms packed with too many people and too little hope. Children walk beside you, not with their mothers. Not with games, but with tools still hanging from their belts. They've worked the same hours as you, some even longer. You look at one, no more than 6, and he nods as he passes you, fresh-faced in a way that breaks your heart. He is stronger than you were at that age. He has to be. You want to sit, that's all. Just sit, on the curb, on a stone, even in the mud. You want to drop your body somewhere and ask it for mercy. But you cannot. The cold will find you if you stop. And the cold here is not something you recover from. It creeps into your bones and settles there, like debt. So you keep walking. You pass rivers that are no longer water. Just black ribbons of poison, bubbling faintly in the dark. You pass wooden fences that have collapsed into themselves, buildings missing bricks, streets missing names. You pass a man yelling at no one, perhaps drunk, perhaps mad, perhaps just one more soul unraveling in the fog. Your shoulders slump lower with each step. Your skin itches from the paste of sweat and soot that clings to it. Your breath is shallow. Every movement sends new messages of protest up your spine. Your feet no longer feel like feet. They are simply tools that carry you, and badly. Finally, you reach your home, or rather, the place where you store your exhaustion between shifts. It is not shelter. It is not peace. It is a room if you are lucky. A corner if you are not. You push open the door and step into the dim light of a shared life. Others are already there. Some lie on straw that crunches. Others cough into rags. No one looks at you. No one needs to. They already know what your day was like. It was the same as theirs. The smell inside is dense. Smoke, cabbage, mildew, and too many bodies in too little space. If you breathe deeply, you remember why you stopped doing that. If you listen closely, you hear the soft scurry of rats. You remove your boots. The soles peel away. You sit, not with relief, but because your body gives out. You eat what little you have, if anything remains. Bread. Soup. A boiled root that may have been food once. It doesn't matter. You eat it like you did everything else today, because you have to. The night is cold. The blanket is thin. You curl under it and try not to shiver. Across the room, someone snores. Someone whispers in their sleep. Someone mutters a curse toward the foreman. You close your eyes and see gears, hear clanks, feel motion, and you remember. This was only day one. Tomorrow the bell will ring again. The room you sleep in is not your own. Not really. It belongs to everyone who lives inside it, and even then, barely. The space is cramped. 4 walls if you're fortunate, 3 if not. And the people inside are as much part of the structure as the splintering floorboards and crumbling plaster. Privacy is a myth. Silence is a rare visitor. The others lie near you, their bodies arranged like cargo in a hold. Brothers, sisters, parents, strangers, all blurred into one huddled mass. The air is stale, not just unmoving, but used, breathed, exhaled, shared, recycled. It carries the scent of survival, old smoke, boiled roots, wet cloth, and the faint bitterness of sweat that has long since settled into skin. You lie down, or rather, you collapse. The mattress, if you dare call it that, is a flattened heap of straw in a sack that's been patched so many times it resembles a map of forgotten injuries. It creaks beneath you as though exhausted too. There's a lump near your hip. You don't check what it is. Some things are best left unidentified. Your bones feel loose. Your joints ache in strange, deep ways. Not in the places that move the most, but in the places that try to hold everything together. Your breath is shallow, half out of fatigue, half out of caution. The dust in your lungs still hasn't cleared. You cough into your sleeve and hope it isn't blood. No one speaks. Words cost energy, and there is none left to spend. You hear the rats in the walls, scratching, persistent, unbothered by your presence. They've lived here longer than you. They are not pests. They are roommates. The basin in the corner holds water, but it's dark with use, slick with film. You splash a bit on your face anyway. It doesn't clean. It just changes the layer of filth. You're not refreshed. You're wet and slightly colder. Dinner, if it comes, is not a meal. It is a ritual of resignation. A crust of bread, a thin stew, a bite of something that might once have been a vegetable. You eat it in silence, your eyes unfocused, staring at the cracked wall in front of you. You do not taste. You do not chew. You consume, because not doing so would mean confronting the empty space inside you. Someone burps, someone groans, someone mutters in their sleep. You lie still. And then, the worst moment of all, the moment between wakefulness and sleep. That is when the memories come back, not of a better life, but of the day you just endured. The clang of machines echoes in your ears even now. The belt's whirring rhythm, the hiss of steam, the shouted curses of the foreman. You cannot escape them. You brought them home with you.
You close your eyes and see gears turning. You hear the phantom cries of a machine you're no longer near. You feel the tremor in your hands, even though they're still. Your mind is trying to rest, but your body doesn't know how. And still, somehow, you sleep. Because sleep is not peace. It is necessity. It drags you down like an anchor, not into dreams, but into a void deep enough to hide your pain for a few short hours. You don't remember falling asleep. You simply vanish. And before long, too soon, the bell will ring again. It always does. You made it through the day. If the word made still holds any meaning, you are alive. Your body is still mostly whole. Your breath, though shallow, continues. You endured the noise, the heat, the dust. You walked the poisoned road home. You folded yourself into the darkness of your shared room and tried to sleep. And now the question sits before you, heavy and bitter. Could you survive this? Not for a moment, not for a scene in a museum, but truly, fully survive this life. Could you wake up every day to that bell with a body not yet healed from the day before? Could you stomach bread that chips your teeth, breathe air that leaves you wheezing, move through hours that warp time itself? Could you return to machines that do not forgive, overseen by men who do not blink? Could you watch a child bleed and not stop working? Could you watch your fingers vanish and keep going? Could you stand in line with your soul burning out and say nothing, because speaking would cost you the only thing you still have, your place? The answer you're left with is not shame. It is awe. Because for all the pain, for all the injustice and cruelty carved into every surface of that world, the truth is undeniable. People lived this. Not just one, not just a few. Generations, entire families, children born into smoke, mothers carrying lunch to sons who hadn't yet lost their first tooth, men who gave their backs, their hands, their hearing, just for another week of pay that couldn't even feed them. They didn't survive it because they were stronger than you. They survived it because they had no choice. You do. You live in a world where choices exist, where safety is not a fantasy, where work is something you can leave, where silence is not the only defense against despair. And that is why you watch this story, not to pity them, not to fear for yourself, but to remember, to feel what it meant to live inside the gears of the machine, to understand the shape of a life that was never given the luxury of rest. Because that understanding, that memory, is the only way to ensure it never returns. The Victorian factory did not end. It evolved. It changed shape. It moved locations, but its lessons remain, buried beneath the soot behind the iron gates, inside the lungs of those who breathed it in. So yes, you survived one day, but could you survive another? Would you want to? And would you still be yourself if you did? Dawn is not something that wakes you. It is something that finds you already awake. The bell hasn't rung yet, but its echo lives inside you now. It tolls in your dreams. It whispers through your bones. Your body lies still on the straw mat, unmoving, not out of rest, but out of fear, because you know what's coming, and your body is already bargaining for a way out, but there isn't one. You shift slowly, carefully. Your limbs crack like old floorboards. Your shoulders resist. Your feet throb with a memory that is more pain than sensation. You stretch, not to loosen your muscles, but to prove they haven't failed completely. You take in the room around you. The others are waking too. Some rise without words, their faces blank. Others cough, wet, deep, rattling in their chests. One man simply stares at the wall, unmoving, as though he's forgotten what the day demands of him. Or maybe he just remembers too well. There is no water, no warmth, no time. You move like a ghost through the motions of preparation, tugging on the same clothes that haven't dried, pulling boots over blistered feet, chewing a bite of bread that tastes like dust. You are not hungry, you are not rested, you are simply required. Outside, the sky is still black. Not night, just the version of morning that this place allows. Fog coils around the doorways. Chimneys begin to smoke. The air tastes of wet coal and old decisions. The streets glisten with filth. The rats are already moving, and so are the children. You see them, tiny silhouettes clutching tools. They walk with heads low, shoulders tense, legs quickened by fear or habit. No one talks. No one sings. Childhood is not something that lives here. It is something that was never allowed to begin. And then it rings again. The bell. Its sound is the same as yesterday's. It is the same as tomorrow's. It is the first sound you'll hear every day until the last day of your life. Not a call to work, but a reminder of where you belong. Your feet begin the journey. Your heart lags behind. And as the factory rises before you through the fog, a hulking shape against a sky that has forgotten how to be blue, you realize something cold and final. You did not survive yesterday. You endured it, and now it begins again. You walk back through the gates as if you never left. Nothing has changed. Not the smoke in the air. Not the rhythm of boots on the greasy floor. Not the machinery waiting with its silent, spinning hunger. Only your body has changed a little weaker, a little more fragile, a little more used. And your mind. Your mind is the part you're trying hardest not to notice. The shift begins. It doesn't begin with ceremony. There is no welcome, no greeting, no instruction. The machines simply start, and you must be ready when they do. If you're not, you're in the way. If you're in the way, you're in danger. And if you're in danger, you are alone. The foreman paces behind you again. His eyes scan the line with mechanical indifference. He doesn't yell today. He doesn't have to. You already know what he expects. You already fear the sound of his boots more than the noise of the machines. Your hands go through the motions. Feed, press, pull, repeat. At first, your thoughts try to wander as they did yesterday, but they don't get very far. They hit walls now. Blank ones. It's not exhaustion anymore, it's erosion. You're not thinking, you're operating. Somewhere inside you, a question stirs. What day is it? You don't know, it doesn't matter. The days blur now. Weekends. They don't exist. Time is divided into before the bell and after the bell. And sleep, when it comes, isn't rest. It's escape. You glance around. A man to your left works one-handed. His other hand is bandaged, not from a new injury, but from the same one you saw 2 days ago. He still hasn't healed. He still hasn't stopped. He can't afford to. A girl nearby, maybe 12, maybe younger, winces every time she leans forward. Her arm bears a mark you've seen before. Burned by a pipe. You wonder how many burns a person collects before their skin forgets how to feel. You see a boy trip, a snap of sound, a hand slammed into iron. He curses, cradling his fingers. No one reacts. He gets up, shakes it off, and returns to work. The machine never stopped, and neither did the shift. There is no safety here. There is no rest. There is only speed, and the ever-present understanding that the moment you slow down, someone else is waiting to take your place. You start to question things you once took for granted. How long can the body do this? How long can the mind stay intact inside this noise? How long before you stop being a person and become just one more moving part? And most dangerous of all, how long before you forget who you used to be? Because already you can't remember your last full breath. You can't remember the last time you laughed. You can't remember your dreams because even if you have them, the machines drown them out. This is the truth no one tells you. The factory does not only take your strength, it takes your story, slowly, methodically. It replaces it with routine, replaces your name with your task, replaces your thoughts with the shriek of gears, replaces your future with a shift schedule. It does not happen all at once. It happens the moment you stop noticing. There comes a point when you stop counting the hours, not because time flies, but because time dissolves. Days blend, shifts merge. The bell becomes the only measure of existence. You wake because it rings. You eat because it pauses. You stop when it says you can. And when it doesn't ring, you panic. You do not live by choice. You live by instruction. You begin to forget things, first little things, then larger ones. You forget what season it is. You forget the color of sky before the smoke came. You forget names of places that aren't covered in soot. Eventually, you forget parts of yourself. You forget what your voice sounds like when it isn't yelling over machines. You forget how to walk without hurrying. You forget how to sit still without guilt. The factory teaches you to move constantly. Even after the shift ends, your hands twitch with the phantom pull of levers. Your back remains curled, even in bed. Your dreams, if they still visit you, are filled with motion, gears, belts, spinning wheels, and sometimes you wake with your fingers clenched, still bracing for impact. You don't talk to others much. No one does. Words are heavy. And what is there to say? Everyone here is suffering the same way. Everyone is just trying to endure without drawing attention. You measure your days in small victories now. I didn't bleed today. I didn't fall asleep at the machine. I didn't get yelled at. I didn't lose anything. And then you realize that's the measure of success in this world. Not gain, but avoidance of loss. The factory doesn't reward you. It simply chooses not to punish you if you're lucky. And if you aren't, it punishes anyway. You begin to envy the numb ones. The ones who have gone blank, who move like ghosts, who no longer flinch at steam bursts or sudden screams. You envy their stillness, their surrender. They've found a kind of peace inside the machine. But not you. Not yet. There's a part of you still clinging, still watching from the inside, still remembering what you once were or could have been. It's a small part, flickering like a weak candle in a room full of wind. And that part of you asks one more time, how long can this go on? There is no answer. You see older workers, shoulders permanently hunched, faces carved with exhaustion, their movements reduced to habit. You see what your future looks like, if you last that long. And you understand the factory's secret. It doesn't break you all at once. It doesn't crush you with one injury, one tragedy. It wears you down, day by day, hour by hour, motion by motion, until you forget that you were ever whole to begin with. This is not a job. It is a slow unraveling, and the factory keeps everything it takes. It happens just when your body begins to believe the end is near. The shift is dragging, yes, but the machines feel slower. The supervisor hasn't yelled in a while. You've reached a dangerous rhythm, the kind that lets you think, maybe I'll make it. You begin to count motions, then minutes, then seconds. And then, like a crack in the clouds, the final bell rings. A sound so sharp and sudden that your heart stumbles in your chest. You dare to feel something close to joy, not happiness, but release. Your muscles loosen. Your fingers slacken. You exhale for the first time in hours. And then, just as you reach for your coat, he appears, the supervisor, a shadow against the doorway, his expression unreadable, his voice flat, overtime. Not a suggestion, not a question. Not even an order, a fact. Your shoulders collapse inward. Your knees tremble. Around you, others don't even react. No sighs, no groans, just the mechanical lowering of heads. The silent return to machines. You want to scream. Not from pain, from betrayal. The bell, that sound you clung to as the finish line, has lied. The finish line moved. There is no finish line, not here. You are not being paid for this. Overtime is not extra. It is expected, demanded. The factory needs more, and therefore you must give more. But what more is there to give? Your breath is shallow, your hands are blistered, your eyes sting from dust, your ears ring with phantom echoes. Your fingers have stopped feeling, your back has stopped straightening, your stomach is hollow, your lips dry, your hope extinguished. But still you turn back to your machine. Why? Because the alternative is worse, because to object is to be replaced, because you've seen what happens to those who resist. They are not missed, they are not remembered, they are simply gone. So you work. You work while the light fades from the filthy windows. You work while the fog outside thickens. You work while the foreman circles again, his boots striking the floor like a judge's gavel. And in the corners of the factory, new shadows appear. Men so exhausted they slump forward. Women blinking too long. Children nodding between tasks. No one stops, not even them, because stopping is not part of the system. Time stretches again. The machines grow louder as if emboldened by your despair. And somewhere between now and later, something inside you gives out. Not your legs, not your hands, something deeper, something quieter, something no one can see. The part of you that was waiting to go home. Overtime ends without warning. Not because the machines stop, but because your body no longer registers motion. You don't remember the last task you completed. You only realize it's over when the noise fades and the lights begin to dim, not turned off deliberately, but because they are tired too. Even the gas flickers with exhaustion. You do not celebrate. You do not smile. You simply stand there, blinking at your hands as if seeing them for the first time. They're trembling, coated in oil and grime and blood, someone else's or your own. You don't know anymore. Your fingers won't uncurl. Your back won't straighten. Your breath comes in huffs like a bellows that's been overworked. You step away from your machine, not by choice, by instinct. You join the others, the line of hollowed figures shuffling toward the doors. No one speaks. No one looks around. You don't even glance at the place where a boy collapsed 3 days ago. You've all walked past him too many times. Outside, it is colder than it was before. The air slaps your face with a cruelty the factory could never replicate, not because it hurts more, but because it reminds you that pain exists elsewhere too. The sky is black. Fog swallows the lamplight. Chimneys still bleed smoke into the night. The streets are slick with coal dust, and your boots, what remains of them, leave prints that disappear as fast as they form. You begin the walk home. Each step is an argument with gravity. Each breath is a question of will. You see other workers stagger down side roads. You see a girl too young to speak dragging a sack of scraps behind her. You see a man, missing a hand, begging outside the same pub that once employed him. No one stops, not because they are heartless but because they know his fate could be theirs by morning. You pass shop fronts boarded shut, homes without windows, a dead horse in the gutter. You see a mother holding her child in the shadows, rocking not for comfort but for rhythm, to keep the child awake, to keep her own mind from drifting too far into despair. And then your home appears, if you can call it that. A shared room, a broken door, a leaky roof. Inside, one bed for six, one bucket for all, one blanket that remembers more skin than it's ever covered. You fall to the floor beside the others. Your hands release nothing because they are empty. Always were. Your face is tight with soot. Your eyes are red with fatigue. And when you close them, the factory follows you in. You hear the gears. You feel the tremble of metal beneath your skin. You smell the hot oil, the sweat, the blood. Even in sleep, the factory owns you. Because the factory does not just take your labor, it takes your future, it takes your voice, it takes your name. And in its place, it leaves only a body that moves when the bell rings. That's the final truth, isn't it? You could survive as a Victorian factory worker, but only in the technical sense. You could endure the hunger, the wounds, the hours. You could walk through smoke and not collapse. You could lose a finger and learn to use the other hand. You could sleep on straw. You could bend. You could break. But you would not remain yourself. You would become something else. A shadow of what you were. A machine made of skin and sorrow. And if you lasted long enough, if the factory didn't take your life outright, it would take everything else. Your memories, your tenderness, your laughter, your hope, your soul. So yes, you could survive. But you would never come back whole. And long after the shift ends, long after the factory closes its iron jaws, the weight will still be with you. Because the factory never really lets go.